Hello, and thank you for tuning in today. We're so excited you decided to join us for Access to Advocacy. We have Rob Price here, who's going to give us a little bit of insight on how he landed in Dunwoody and what his plans are for the future. So, hi, welcome, Rob. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm doing fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So, I was doing a little research in your bio, and I noticed that you are here by way of Ohio. How did you land up in Dunwoody?
Well, when my wife and I first got married, we lived in Columbus, Ohio, and Columbus, Ohio is a great city, but we didn't want to grow old in Columbus, so we looked over the entire country and selected Atlanta as a place we wanted to move. So we moved down here by choice the week before Thanksgiving of 1999. So I've been in Dunwoody for 21 years now.
Oh my goodness, 21 years here. That's a long time. But I see you've really settled in and made yourself at home here. You've gotten involved in a lot of the civic organizations. Tell us a little bit more about, being a part of some of those.
Well, it's been really nice to be tied into the community like that. I started out mainly working with outreach programs in my church, um, uh, St. Luke's Presbyterian, with some of the organizations that they help, like Family Promise. Um, and then I did a career transition in 2019 from private consulting to nonprofit work, and that freed up some time. So I actually helped set up the Dunwoody location of the Community Assistance Center.
Okay.
And during COVID, they gave me a key to the building because I was the only volunteer that was young enough to safely work there. So I would go pick up food, take it to the location, store it, and then the next day I would hand it out. And I did that for several months. And then I've been a member of the City Planning Commission for not quite 4 years now. So that's been a great opportunity to kind of be involved behind the scenes to help kind of guide the city and provide input on some of the development that's coming, and also to just kind of see what's coming down the road and kind of get a sneak peek for what's on the horizon.
So can you spill some of the tea and let us know what's going on with the Dunwoody Village overlay or maybe High Street or some things that are going on in Georgetown?
I can. I think maybe we'll touch on the village. So the village, I think most of us have seen lots of activity in that recently. What has happened is a new zoning overlay has been put down. So all
Mm-hmm.
that does is say in the future, anything that's built has to conform to that zoning. It doesn't actually guarantee that anything will happen. It could stay looking the exact same forever. Um,
Oh.
Only when something is rebuilt or when a use that's currently allowed stops and gets grandfathered out. So really the next step or the next question is, what can the city do to nudge change in the future? How can we work with the businesses that are there to maybe provide the right incentives or um, the right partnerships to encourage the kind of development and redevelopment of that area that I think a lot of the citizens want?
Mm-hmm. Right. So now you brought up a really interesting tie-in point. You have like these businesses that really have a huge economic impact on the area, but they're not necessarily residents and voters. So how do you plan to keep them engaged and other stakeholders as well as, we progress this thing?
Well, I think that you used the great term, which is stakeholders. So um, citizens obviously vote; they have tremendous impact. But you have the property owners, and they have a right to reasonable use of their property. And ideally, what the citizens want, merges well with what the property owner wants. But
Mhm.
I think the key is just engagement, communication with all parties. Find out where there's overlap, um, where we can help people get what they want. I think in the village in particular, it would be great if the city could pick up a piece of property. It could be used maybe short term as a park or an open space, and then later on with one of the larger property owners, perhaps leverage it with some sort of public-private partnership. Maybe engage our development authority a little bit more to kind of um, nudge, something that would be beneficial to both sides. But the key is just engagement. You have to have engagement with all the stakeholders early, and you have to be very transparent in your processes. People have to trust it and believe that you're honest in how you work.
I see. So now, I know we talked a little bit about this while we were preparing, but um, you said people really have to start thinking about the future now when it comes to planning and what the future would look like. Can you give us a little bit more insight on that?
I can. Well, I mentioned I've been here for 21 years. So if you think about how much the city, or what has become the city, has changed in the last 20 years, I mean, the population has gone from low 30,000 to around 50,000 now. And there's been quite a bit more development, especially in the perimeter area. Looking forward, I have to imagine that there will be just as much change over the next 20 years. But that change requires a lot of planning, a lot of guidance, and a lot of anticipation. The steps we take in the next 2, 3, 4 years will heavily influence what the city looks like 10, 15, 20 years from now. So what might look like small changes and small things now that don't yield a lot of results will really influence how things are redeveloped, how our roads and our transportation network changes, for example, over the next 15 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll tell you, as I'm driving around, I have my 15-year-old has got her permit and about to get her license. I'm like constantly thinking, okay, when I'm on the road, I see an exit, but maybe it's not there or it's closed. And it's like the whole landscape just starts to look totally different with all the construction. So you're totally right about that. So now, do you have any additional insight to add on how the top end is kind of taking shape?
Well, I think one insight that I have, and it's not much of a secret, but it's something that I think about quite a bit, is
Mm-hmm.
there at some point I think will be public transit along 285,
Mm-hmm.
and that is going to intersect with the southern part of the city someplace, obviously
Okay.
down in the Georgetown area.
Mm-hmm.
That public transit may still be 10 or 15 years out, but we need to be thinking now, how do we want that to intersect with our city? I think we almost need a similar kind of zoning overlay as we have in the village down in Georgetown to lay out, you know, when this comes in, how do we want the area around whatever transit node comes in to develop and grow? Because it'll show up, and if we're not ready, we're going to get a mismatch of development that may not be an ideal mix for what the citizens want, and it may not be as ideal for what an aggregate business community wants.
Mm-hmm. So now, lastly, I was reading on your website, greater sustainability is something that you're pretty passionate about. And I know the last line was really jumped out at me, improving citizen health, because I'm always thinking, your future health has to start now. So just kind of give us a little bit of insight on what your thoughts are on sustainability for the area.
So, I mean, to me, this is there's a lot of low-hanging fruit here that we've just missed the boat on.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious one that I cite over and over and over again is putting some solar panels on the roofs of some city buildings. To me, that's something that pays for itself in maybe 6 or 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then it results in a net tax savings to the city that can be used for something else. And then take that thought a step further. If we put solar power and battery backup on some of our key intersections, maybe
Mm-hmm.
when there's a power outage, those traffic lights work for an extra couple of hours.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
so that, it helps with safety in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Sustainability isn't just green buildings, isn't just green purchasing and things like that. It's also making it so that you can get around the city without having to use your personal vehicle. So better trail systems, better sidewalks, more bikeability, so it's safer to take the family down to get ice cream and not have to hop in your car. Maybe you can get some exercise and not contribute to air pollution, and it becomes more of a fun event. Well, there are parts on even some of our main roads still that don't even have basic sidewalks, let alone
Mm-hmm.
safely bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
I think even in this for the Dunwoody perimeters constituents, I would like to see it, maybe at least investigate the possibility of some sort of connector shuttle service within the perimeter area. There's a lot of businesses that have shuttles that run to and from MARTA. There's a lot of hotels that have that.
Mm-hmm.
Could we do some sort of partnership with perimeter businesses and the city to generate some sort of circulator shuttle that will maybe reduce traffic, especially during peak lunch and morning and evening rush hour times, to move. It might circulate by MARTA. It'll circulate by the big restaurant clusters and the businesses and the hotels. It might work there. It's worth, to me, at least investigating things like that. So I think there are some easy ones like the solar, some more complex like the shuttles and expanding the trail network. But there are so many opportunities to do things in this aspect that'll make quality of life better, and in many cases will save tax money.
Wow, you really got me excited because I definitely am always trying to walk or try to, well, not quite bike yet because I don't have one, but I will walk until the sidewalk runs out. So, there's that issue. And then, of course, when the lights or the power go out, it's like everything just gets chaotic and backed up. But if we did have something in place where it could continue for a few hours, that little bit of something would really go a long, long way. So I could definitely appreciate that. So I want to say thank you so much, Rob, for joining us today. Can you tell people how they can get in touch with you or learn more about you and your causes?
Absolutely. So, easiest way for my campaign is my website, which is elect Rob for Dunwoody with the number 4. They pop
Hmm.
up right there.
Okay.
I'm on most of the social media. So, there's elect Rob Price on Facebook. I'm
Hmm.
under the same name on Instagram and Twitter. I'm not as adept at Twitter and Instagram as I am at Facebook, but I try to post some information on there. So all of those different sources have information on my campaign. On my website, I also have links to some of the voter guides, so you
Hmm.
can look and do an apples to apples comparison with me and my opponent. So.
Okay, awesome. Well, you're going to have to get Hannah and Sophie to get you onto Instagram. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I'm on
And it's not
Instagram.
that hard.
I just haven't used it that often. So
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much again. And thank you guys for tuning in. I hope that you found this information very helpful. And we'll be back very soon with another episode of Access to Advocacy. Have a wonderful day.
you too. Thank you so much.